Welcome to the Wealth Radar podcast, where we scan the landscape and navigate the noise of investing and personal wealth. I'm Jason Fowler. I'm joined by my brother Paul. We're certified financial planners from Fowler's Group. And on this episode, we are talking with a very well-known local gentleman. Some would say a doyen of the business and wider Cairns community for a very long time, who's now retired and living the dream, Joe Vella. Welcome, Joe.
Thanks, lads.
Welcome along, Joe. And mate, thank you for accepting the call and doing this podcast with us, mate. That was you jumped at that, actually.
I did. Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
But mate, as Jason said, Joe Vella Insurance Brokers has been, I guess, a name synonymous with Cairns, not only with insurance, but the business world in Cairns and far north Queensland, for that matter. And can't wait to get into the story of Joe Vella Insurance Brokers and how that went. But mate, if we could, can we just take it back a step and just maybe give us a rundown of the Joe Vella early years? Because you're not from Cairns, are you? So
no.
You had Where'd you grow up, mate? Where did it all begin?
Melbourne. I'm a Fawkner boy, which is northern suburbs, very much a working class environment. Born in Malta, left Malta when I was 6 months old, and migrant family, and we settled over there in Melbourne. Started this working class family. Father had a cleaning business. Both parents are literate. Got an older brother who's now passed and a younger sister. And I used to help my dad because he was illiterate with his business, his cleaning business, doing tenders, learning how to touch type at the age of 14 and learning contracts. By the time I was about 15, help doing tenders for him. And Mum never wanted me to work as a blue-collar worker because I was the winged one. I lost an eye when I was 4 and was blind for a while.
And how did that happen, Joe, if you don't mind me asking?
Ironically, I only learnt probably 10 years ago that my brother did it, and I thought it was self-inflicted. But my brother threw a sword into the ground. My father, he was in the Korean War, and he brought a bit of memorabilia back with him, and my brother found it. He's 7 years older than I, and he threw the sword, and the sword came back poked me in the eye with the handle and burst the eye. So I lost the sight in both eyes for 12 months in 1964, and the rest is history. But Mum sort of protected me a fair bit, and I was never sort of allowed to get too dirty and getting eye infections and stuff. So anyway, school I went to public schools. At year 10, at a parent-teacher interview, my mother and father were told in my presence that I wouldn't amount to much, and that it was best that I get taken out and work in a factory or get some sort of job, possibly with your father, seeing he was wearing yakka overalls. And Mum's quite spirited and told in no uncertain terms that wasn't going to happen, so pulled me out of the school and went to another school in Melbourne, in Preston, and rest is history. I then I guess made something of myself. I worked for an insurance brokerage called Robinson Insurance Services at the age of 17. I did try teachers college for a week, and that didn't work out too well. I didn't want to be at teachers college. Went as a junior clerk and move and park cars for the bosses in Curzon Street in North Melbourne, where I was there for 25 years working for that organisation. Went to the USA for them. Came back when they sold the US operation, and they had 200 staff at the time, and I was their national sales manager.
Oh, wow.
The company sold, and it was during the days when Rodney Adler was had moved in with FAI, and there was a bit of funny business going on. Rodney did time for it. I met the new CEO, who was literally a megalomaniac, and him and I didn't get on. He bagged the original owners, who I loved dearly. They were my foster parents or foster fathers, and I defended them, and my future there was doomed. So I left, came back to Cairns, and started Joe Vella Insurance Brokers.
So why the move to Cairns from Melbourne?
Well, Melbourne was a place where I'd really exhausted all the, I guess, the energy that I could give it there, and I got pretty stale there. Another contributing factor was that my mum never got on with my wife, and it was probably safe to make the move. So moved up to Cairns to start up OAMPS Insurance at the time, which has since been sold. It was a public company.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was just me and a young lady who started called Virginia, and from there it grew, and left there after 25 years, and then started Joe Vella Insurance Brokers.
So how old were you then when you came to Cairns, Joe?
I was 29.
29, yep.
Cairns those days was somewhat a bit more rural, but it's just good to be through the process.
And you, when you started up your business, do you specialise in the fuel industry? Is that how it was back then? With the general insurance, you actually specialised in specific industries, or is that?
Yes. So OAMPS at the time had its niche was in creating mutuals, where there was the oil industry, there was the caravan park industry, there was the earth moving, the beauticians. They just ventured in so many different industries, and they focused on that, which to me made perfect sense because you got to know the type of client that you were specialising in. You got to know what their exposures were, and they were virtually they had their own quirks isn't the right word. They had their habits that you knew is what pushed their buttons, and you catered for an industry that was, habitual.
Yep.
And so OAMPS, because it was, as you said, it was a national company, and then so what was the trigger to move and go yourself? What was
I had a falling out with the new CEO at the time, who wasn't respectful to the former owners, who I thought a lot about and thought a lot of until their recent passings. I guess let it be known that I didn't agree with his perception. He was a megalomaniac, and he fortunately left the company, but I'd gone at the time. I couldn't work for them anymore.
Yep.
And started Joe Vella Insurance Brokers.
And so was that like literally started from scratch? Again?
From scratch. I worked from my daughter's bedroom on her compact Presario computer and little bubble jet printer. My first policy was my neighbour's home insurance policy in Bayview, and it went from there. I'm by nature very much a door knocker, an order taker, and very much I've enjoyed being in this community here from a voluntary perspective with all the different charities I'm in, and but I just think I'm born to serve, and that's just how I am.
But there's a certain skill in that, I think, that you did when you started your business, and I know Dad's certainly when he started his business as a life insurance broker. You mentioned you did a bit of door knocking, or they call it cold calling, or whatever. But there's a certain skill in doing that, in a sense that you're not pestering people, or you do it that they're doing it the right way. If people wouldn't do it, wouldn't even think about doing that sort of thing today. How did you go? Was it something you learnt, or was just that your natural personality? Because you do have a personality that's easy to go on with. You like people. I
guess if I could put it as my secret to my success is that you treat people as to how you want to be treated. And I do have a real fond and love for humanity and people. And I think you treat them with the courtesy and respect and genuine courtesy. You can't make that stuff up. The minute you start scripting it, it's going to show. People aren't stupid. And I think if you treat people the way that they, with genuine care, yes, you've got an agenda if you want to make a sale. That's just the way it is. You're a hunter and gatherer, but if you do it respectfully and humanely, I think that that is what has got me to where I am. And it has to be a natural ability. You can teach people certain skills, but you can't teach them to be really nice people if they don't want to be nice people.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And so what was the sort of growth from there? I mean, it must have been a bit of Dad talks about when he went out, because similar sort of thing happened, and his father-in-law told him he was a frigging idiot. What's he going to go and do this stuff for? And there was a bit of a challenge in it for him, but he said it was also scary. Like he had to get out and he had to provide, and like the world changed. He went from a corporate job to doing that, but it instilled something in him. He said you've got to have some sort of fire, but it must have been something that helped drive you through that period.
Hunger is good, but also the genuine want to be able to I guess, exercise your craft professionally and ethically. And to me, success, if I can use that term, hasn't come easy, but it has to the extent where I've done it the way that I want to achieve it, and that is to make sure that you deliver what you want to achieve. It's no different to a chef wanting to deliver a Michelin plate to somebody. You know, you just don't want to slap something on a plate. In my profession, which is as is your father's and yours to a certain degree, it's not something you can taste, smell, feel, and to somewhat enjoy. Insurance is a real grudge purchase to a lot of people, including myself. So you've got to make it the best experience you can, but also give them what they're buying, and that's the peace of mind. And so for me, I had, before I started JVIB or Joe Vella Insurance Brokers, I had already had 15 years of doing it for somebody else, and being in a regional centre of Cairns, Townsville, Mackay, places where I was doing business, and also around other capital cities, people know who you are. Good news spreads, but bad news really spreads quickly. Yeah. So if you've got a lot of good news that people are prepared to back you with and recommend you, it becomes easier as you progress.
Yeah. So Dad speaks about, he mentioned, I think it was when he first ran across you in business, or he's told a story. I think it was through who you know. And I think you referred him a client, or it could have been vice versa, I'm not sure, but it was I think it was you referred a client to him for a disability insurance plan for some service station owners back in the day, and he said that's just how business was. People dealt with people in the town and just referred business to each other, and that's how it works. And you mentioned before the insurance game. You said you can't touch or smell, or feel it, and we do the same. With the life insurance brokerage that we got here, it is a begrudging sale, isn't it? Like, people who wants to think about things going wrong, but at the end of the day, all you've got is you're selling a promise.
Correct.
That's basically it. And to sell a promise, people have got to believe that you believe in it.
Correct.
It's not,
and deliver when it's time.
And deliver when it's time.
So for me, it's been quite a journey. It's been a real enjoyable journey. I have to say it's become, I would not want to be in it today, in as much as it's a totally different landscape now, where you're dealing with people who are not wanting to talk to people, real people. And that would be my warning to other businesses, where don't rely on just emails. Yeah. Stay in touch. If you can't sell something that you can't smell, touch, taste or feel, people want to be able to touch you. People want to be able to feel your presence and know that they're talking to you. Real important thing. But we specialised as well. So I took a leaf out of the OAMPS book at the time, my experience, and learning how to focus and picking my targets. So, no different when we're playing games with our kids in the car, Spotto with the yellow car. You don't see yellow cars unless you're still really looking for them, and you recognise that, and that's true in business, is how I've seen it, and that's what's helped me succeed. So I'd be at the photocopier looking out the window in Mulgrave Road, and when we're in the early days, and you'd see a transport operator. If it's a good looking truck, or if I'm in my car and I'm driving and I see a good operator, whether it's an earth mover or whatever business it is, I'd go on the dictaphone and I'd say, contact them, take their phone number down, and I'd call them, saying how impressed I was with the presence of their vehicle or their business or their building, or I've heard of them. And not only are you paying homage to that operator, who automatically puts you on the right side of the foot for genuine reasons, because they deserve it, but you say that I really want to deal with people that are like you, and it's a good feel. But for me, it was true. I wanted to deal with them for, I guess, to develop my business, but also to be with good people, and we all want to be with good people. Yeah.
And so how quick did it grow from going out, and was it a struggle to be able to find markets, to be able to play stuff again because of the size of the nationals? Was that a challenge?
I have to say, the first 5 years, the new CEO of OAMPS made my life absolute hell. But you've got your focus in mind, and it's either sink or swim, and you've just got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And that's just to forget about the stuff that's creating the diversion and keep things in focus. And so you just dig deep and you just do what you've got to do. In like we are today with the disaster that's taking place, you forget what's happening. You've just got to get the job done, and so you do. So for me, our growth was quick, but it was stepped. I have to say, growing pains, you learnt to sort of overcome them, but when you're a sole operator and you've got no one else to bounce things off, it becomes a lonely road.
Yep.
And you start questioning, am I doing the right thing? But I think you've just got to trust your gut, but also talk to someone who you treat as a confidant or a mentor. And my father passed away when he was 52, so I didn't have the pleasure and the joy of being able to bounce things off my dad. So I had older mentors in business that were my father's age that I could talk to and trust, and they were very good to me and from a advice perspective.
Was the cans business industry good for that sort of thing, to be able to lean on people back in those days, Joe?
I was involved in Rotary, and so there were good people in Rotary that I could talk to if I needed to, and I was involved and remained involved for 30 odd years in different charity groups. In fact, your father was in Make-A-Wish with me. In fact, he was the chairman when I joined Make-A-Wish 35 years ago. And yeah, you mingled with good people. I hate to probably use any vulgarities, but an old friend of mine, Mr. Malik Senior, once said to me, who was a retired lawyer and quite a character, an icon in this town, he used to say to me, "Joe, you hang around shit and shit sticks."
Yeah.
And it's so true, So and I've always remembered that. I miss him big time. He was one of my mentors, and but again, you hang around good people,
yes,
and you are to be introduced to good people, and to me that's a real fundamental lesson 101 for anyone.
Absolutely. And so how did you go from when you started in Cairns and you grew the amount of offices throughout far north Queensland? How did that progress? So where did you go from a sole operator to multiple?
So we bought a building. Well, in fact, when friends of mine, Mike and Kathy, who used to own New Haven Homes, they share the same surname. We think we're related, but we'd never ever explored it because we like each other too much. And Mike and Kathy had their building in P Street, which they said, "How about you just come in our office and we'll sublease you one of the desks there." And so it started from there for me. I then ended up having more staff than them in their office, so then we bought the one next door to them, and then we ended up buying their building, their half of the building, and they ended up going to Darwin. We then purchased an opportunity to come up where we purchased the Akavo and Strike in Mareeba, their business. Louis went on to do Elders Insurance. He's since retired. Kevin stayed on for us in Mareeba, and then we had Atherton as part of an annex to that building. Business that wasn't doing so well. We put a young lady, Lisa Cooter at the time. Well, she was Lisa White at the time, and she was young, willing, and able, and I mentored her. Spent a bit of time with her there. And she ended up being terrific. Stayed with me for 16 years until I sold the business. And she had 4 people working for her. Mareeba had 5 people there. I think by the time I sold, we had Innisfail, and which was a very small satellite office, and we had Cairns where there was 35 people there.
Yeah, okay.
I also, during that time, had started another business through a person I dealt with, a lady called Julie. She was based in the north coast of New South Wales in Gosford Way, Wyong, or Woy Woy actually, and she unfortunately had contracted MS. got relieved from her role with the insurance company. They were the days when, you know, you could sort of get away with it,
Yep.
whereas today you can't. I took her on. She was working for me remotely. Her specialty with caravan parks as an underwriting agency. I then said, how about we start a company called All Parks Insurance? And, you know, I gifted her 35% of the business because she was going to be the main focal part of that business. There was no way I could do that from what I was already doing, plus all the different charities. So took on that role, and that ended up being a magnificent, and still is a magnificent organisation. I've since sold my interests in that, and it's still going very strong.
It's still called All Parks.
All Parks Insurance.
There you go. Yeah.
Wow.
So so it uses a Lloyd's agency, that business, and it wholesales insurance to insurance brokers for solely the caravan park industry.
Okay. So with that journey, that growth, I'm assuming people, right? You've talked about a lot in growing the business. How do we relate to people and whatever? But it's the people who also work for you that you've already just explained there that help that growth. So was that a challenge, or was it more just being able to mentor and train people on the journey in the way and the means of that? Because you've got 35 people in one office in Cairns, let alone the satellites. And that's a lot.
I don't wish to sound chauvinistic. So I've got 2 daughters, and so and I'm not chauvinistic, but I think we had 4 men and the rest are women. So it becomes quite an exercise to and appreciation as to how to understand people and help steer and keep harmony, I guess. It is a challenge dealing with humans from an employer's perspective. When you're either going to be their banker, their psychiatrist, marriage guidance counsellor, mentor, and try and be their boss, and you know you can't be their friend to do your role properly at all time. It's really like being a parent in so many ways. But you've got huge numbers, and there are different styles of how you navigate running your business. You're either a dictator and you say you do it this way, or you're not, and I'm the not. But I guess I let my compassion and my love of people, that's sort of got me through, where people have reacted genuinely to, I guess, generosity, care, and love. And I loved my staff, and I, expressed that in different ways to them from a employer's perspective.
And with family in the business, you had a daughter that's in the game or came into the business, is that right? Yeah, one of your daughters actually taught my kids. She's a teacher, Natalie.
Natalie.
Yeah, that's why they're so smart, mate. 2 of my kids anyway.
Obviously, they take after their mum. Renee was looking at doing education like her older sister, and then she turned to do law, and then she realised that the uni life is not for me. Broke the news to us, and said, I'd like to work in insurance and do what you do, Dad. And I said, well, look, that's fine, but you ain't working for us as the first employer. You need to work somewhere else, and I need for you to earn your own stripes, just so you can earn the respect from work colleagues, and that this isn't just a gimme. And she worked for QBE. I gave them my word when they came and approached me and said that they were going to employ her. And they said, we'd like to get some sort of, some ground rules. I said, I ain't going to touch Renee for 5 years unless she wants to move, but there has to be good reason. But as far as I'm concerned, 5 years is I think is fair and reasonable. And she left after 5 years on her own volition. We worked well with each other. Renee she was an underwriter, then she became a broker. I didn't have much to do with Renee on a day-to-day basis, and it's really, really hard to be a parent and an employer. So we made sure that I was Joe, never Dad at work, and treated her as one of the crew. In fact, I was harder on her than what I was on her than what I was on the rest of the staff. And it's a tough gig, I would imagine. I mean, you guys are, working in a family business with your dad and mum in the business as well, God rest her soul. When you've got other people there that can sort of try and look within to see if they can get you on something, you've got to make sure that you're not seen to be the favourite. Yeah. And so at work, it's got to be totally neutral.
Yeah.
But the business grew. It grew significantly, and we just had a lot of people. I just love networking.
Yeah. Without
even knowing I'm doing it, I guess. Again, I think if people see the natural natural, I guess, take and your ability, it follows. And no different to that movie, Field of Dreams. Build it and they will come. And that's how we sort of evolved.
So as that, with all of that growth, and you've subsequently sold, what was that transition? Was that something in the back of your mind that you went, at some point, I can't do this forever and I've got to find an exit, or how did that come about, or what was your thought process in succession leading up to ultimately a sale?
Yeah, exiting is something that my family had just said you need to start thinking about. Everything has a price, and with, I guess, the commitment and pleasing people to the degree that you want to please, and being in the insurance industry, the callings of late night calls, car accidents, fires, break-ins, cyclones, all those sort of things. There's no timeline on that. It happens at any time. My first probably 10 years of owning Vella Insurance Brokers, I would put in 14, sometimes 16 hours a day. I would go home, have dinner with the girls, and when the girls were younger, I'd lay with them, read with them, talk to them about my dad, because they weren't alive when Dad was had passed, and then I'd go back to work. Yep. So fortunately, work wasn't very far from home, and I'd go back to P Street and operate there till 2 a.m, because it was just, there was only just a few staff and there was a lot of things happening, and you're growing the business. I just found that the girls were just missing not having Dad, and my girls are now teenagers, or no, they're older than that. They were now married, but they're just like, Dad, please take care of yourself. You're wearing yourself a bit too thin. Mary Ann was at home with the girls, making sure that the home environment was there for the kids, and she's a great mum, but they still, I guess, thought it was time for me to be home. So I transitioned from Vella Insurance Brokers thinking that when I'm 60, 65, I would start looking at how am I going to do this and on a soft approach. So I was 55, and I thought we would change it from Vella Insurance Brokers and use the acronym JVIB, because you can't have them just think Vella, because if Vella's not there anymore, it's not the right way to sell the business. So we use JVIB as the marketing tool, and it went really, really well. I then my departure came a bit earlier than expected. You lads would know that I was a much, much bigger boy, so I was sitting at 160 kilos or 158.5 kilos. When I was 40, my dad had his first stroke and then heart attack from 40. So, the dogs were barking in my head, your monkey's on your back, you're thinking about it. Mm-hmm. And I had done a fair bit to lose weight. I ended up being one of the first in Cairns, in as far as earlier than us here in Cairns, but I had one of the first gastric bands done.
Okay.
Lost a bucket load of weight and then put weight on, as you do. I then had the band removed and was gradually putting weight on. I got to be about 130 kilos, I think it was again. I dropped to about 115 with the band. And then I had a gastric bypass, which is the restriction of your stomach. It's not the sleeve where they cut half your stomach up. This is a seam they put in. And my metabolism had shut down. In fact, my endocrinologist had said that I was a bear in hibernation. So I was not burning any any calories at all. I was just storing it, and that things will go severely south from there. So I had this invasive surgery, which went a bit wrong, unfortunately, and no one picked it up until I got back home in Cairns because I had the surgery in Melbourne. And I ended up losing 33 kilos in 5 weeks because I couldn't eat or drink anything, and we couldn't work out why. But effectively, my esophagus had shut down totally. It had scar tissue, and it shrunk so much so that it actually closed any ability for any fluid or any food to get to.
When was this, Joe? How old were you then, Joe?
So that was I was 57. So 57, that was So then. Yeah, it was 57, I think it was. Yeah, I was 57. So I had, they'd given me 24 hours to live. Bernard Chin, who's a local Cairns specialist, had discovered what was going on. They actually thought I was bulimic at one stage. And he had to extract my esophagus through a machine. Took 2 lots of surgery and, they could not believe that I'd come good. So I'd been boxing for 12 years, 5 days a week prior to that for fitness. And I think had I not had the fitness and the sustenance, it would have been all over. It was at my hospital bed when last rites were given, when Natalie had said, "Dad, I need you to do something about the business." I then decided to sell the business.
Wow.
And sold the business and sold the underwriting agency. And that happened the next year. Mm-hmm. And I had a 5-year exit and and all done and dusted. So, but I worked in the business for 5 years after I sold it. I sold 70% initially and the balance was 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
And the balance was done then. And
how was that next 5 years working there? Were they tough, or was it?
No,
what you've been through.
Because I sat on the main board of. Initially I sat on the main board of Steadfast, which is Australia's largest insurance group, and I got on very well with the CEO, who's currently still the CEO and chairman of the company, and. They had no issue. Figures were going crazy. They'd made acquisitions. I managed them. And then I sold the balance to a company that they also owned called Regional Insurance Brokers. And then I exited out, as I say, 2.5 years ago.
Mate, that's an unbelievable point to have got to. So... I can't even imagine what's going through your head at that point in time. But was it the fact that you were then able to sell inside 12 months, was that because you'd sort of already, been thinking about that, or was or was there just some just good luck or good management?
I'm not sure whether you. I had a really good team. I had a general manager, Colin Craig, who was my banker for many years. A friend in Rotary, and Cole worked for me for 15 years, and I've got to say that every business needs, like a marriage, a yin and yang. You need someone who is that can do things that you can't do in your business for you to really do well and succeed. Again, no different to a marriage. We all have our positives, but we have our weaknesses as well. And so you need someone else that you need to rely on that's really good in your weakness. And Cole was amazing in the financial side of the business. We didn't have any overdrafts. We were really well heeled, and we had a really good reputation. Our name was solid. We never caused trouble. Again, I was on the Steadfast board. I chaired their foundation. People know and if your staff are happy, we had a very, very low turnover of staff. If I lost a staff member in 1 every 2 years, I'd even take it really hard then. But it was just, how we had our business. So when I was looking like crap and people thought I had terminal cancer, to lose the weight I did, I wasn't in a good space, not in a mental space, but just in a health space.
Yep.
I got to the stage where I was in pre-renal failure and couldn't even lift the remote control of the bed at the hospital because I had no strength to do so. Word got around that Joe's dying. And so whether you call them opportunists, vultures or whatever, word got around, the business is going to be for sale. And so I had 2 calls from 2 international brokerages. I had another organisation, a large one in Sydney that I didn't respect at all and said, not on my Nelly, will oversell to you. And then I had spoken to Steadfast and spoken to, at the time, Robert Kelly, who was the CEO, and we met. Cole and I flew down to Brisbane. We met at the Qantas Club Lounge at the domestic airport, had a meeting, and I've got to say, it was just done. And we got paid, I guess, what the business was really worth. At the time, it was above the odds, and I still think it's about the same sort of rate today. And
so had you had an involvement with Steadfast prior to that so you were they were a known quantity to you?
I'm a shareholder. I've got a lot of shares in Steadfast, even till today. So I was only in business for a year and a half when I was asked to invited to go on their board, their main board. So Steadfast was very, very young. It's Australia's largest insurance buying group. It's also international, Germany or throughout Europe and in the US heavily as well. New Zealand and Asia today, and I guess I represented the far north on their main board and regional areas. When they went public, there was I think 10 or 12 board members, and only 2 stayed on the main board, and plus Robert Kelly, and the rest didn't want to sort of either get a Guernsey or want to get a Guernsey. I didn't want a Guernsey on the main board, but I was already on their foundation board, and I chaired their foundation board through my experiences through charities.
Yep.
And I was on that board up until I left 2.5 years ago.
So how has that transition been from 2.5 years ago, selling the last piece to now? How's that been? What have you filled your days in with?
I guess a bit of advice of wisdom is it can be a bit lonely. It can be a bit stressful when you're in business. And all I got to say is if you think you're going to sell because you need a break, don't. Never sell because you need a holiday.
Yeah.
Have the holiday and then see how you feel.
Yep.
But when you're so committed to your business, and in my case, the community, as well as the business, going from being full on, because I was still 12 hours a day, 5.5 days a week, until I sold, and that was the age of 62, 62, you're right, yep. It's an instant stoppage of communication, of I guess blood pumping through your system, being useful.
Yep.
And I class myself as a has-been, but that's all good. I know what I did when I was in business. It's taken me a while to get rid of that fogginess and feeling of emptiness.
Yep.
I would wake up during the week and say, what worth am I putting into society, my clients, I'm not needed anymore. And you do a bit of soul searching. I was lucky in as much as that I had planned that once I do retire, and that was about 10 years prior to I retired, that I'd buy a property, which Mary and I bought a property at Tinaroo, and we've got acreage there on the waterfront, and I spend a lot of my time doing gardening where people can't talk back at me, make any demands, and I've got birds and natural wildlife there, and I don't have the phone ringing all the time, which is great. Plus our commercial developments that we've done with our commercial properties, and they keep me busy, and I now property manage my own properties.
Well, I want to touch base on that. Vella Plaza. What was the inspiration behind that? Obviously an old theatre and you wanted to keep the same look, but it's almost it's an iconic building here in Cairns, mate. Yeah. I haven't been inside. From all reports, inside's unbelievable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Paul, so I'll turn the clock back to when I first moved to Cairns for OAMPS, and our office when we first started was at 108 Mulgrave. It was at 101 Mulgrave Road, which is on the corner of Severn Street and Mulgrave Road. Mm-hmm. Theo's building, and I would be at the photocopier looking for contacts, leads and stuff. Look to the right, and there's what used to be geo pickers at the time. Yep. And it was a hideous looking awning they had. Sorry, geo pickers. It was a teal coloured, pink garage door. The building was just could have been a beautiful building. It was Art Deco, built by the Americans for the American troops coming during the bombing of the Coral Sea, is what it was built for. And it was an iconic picture theatre in its day. And I'd often look at it thinking, gee, I feel so sorry for that building. I'd love to own it one day. Put the clock forward 17 years, and funny thing before that, sorry, is that I during the early days when I thought the amateurs were really the amateurs, and you'd go to Brook Pool and everyone would race over to get a table and in their fineries, and I didn't have a suit here in Cairns, and it didn't need a suit. That's when the wet season was really the wet season, which we're experiencing now. And a good friend of mine who I'm not sure if you guys know of, he's since passed, Michael Grabow, used to be the Ampol distributor in Cairns, an iconic family from Edge Hill. And I'd said, Michael, I've got to buy a suit or hire a suit for the amateurs ball. And he says, oh, you should go to Pickers. So remembering I'm 160 kilos, and Pickers were tent manufacturers. But in those days, you had multi-operated businesses because Cairns is what it is today with specialty shops. So I've tried across the road asking for a suit, and you had to slide open this door that just took forever to try and open, and you go into this maze of a building, and it was Geo Pickers. And I'll never forget the lady at the counter saying, can I help you? And I've just said, I'm here to hire a suit. And she goes, no, we make tents. I said, no, I'm here to hire a suit. You hire suits for the amateurs ball. And she just said, I think someone's having a blend of you. So I've left the place, and I don't like that joint. Anyway, I've gone back to the office and did my work. But 15 years later, I'm driving, and at the time I had a two-door Benz, and as I'm driving past, I could see a for sale sign put on this building, and I've stopped. And as I've stopped and opened the car door, and again, I'm blind in my right eye, I've opened the car door in the Benz, and because it's a two-door, it's a wider door. I've opened the car door in the traffic lane of a cyclist, and the poor kid has hurdled over the car. And I've run over to see how he is. He was okay, my door was not okay. And anyway, I bought the building.
There you go.
So I walked in. I'm a bit of a visionary when it comes to, I guess, developments and stuff, and house projects and stuff. And I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and it was a labour of love. And bought the building and did the work and brought it back to its Art Deco era with a bit of a modern twist on, at the time, Apple or Mac, with all the glass and a lot of white and clear transparency. And so, but we've maintained a lot of it. So air conditioning's got big orange fabric tubes of carpets, bespoke orange, and it does look a treat. I've not been in the building upstairs since I sold the business. But I do miss it and have fond memories.
But it's still very visual as you drive past.
It does.
The facade that you redid is unbelievable, mate.
Thank you.
So just want to touch on, and you've mentioned a couple of times in our chat going through the community stuff, right? Maybe, I don't know where it started in Cairns. I know where my memory of Joe and Dad was Make-A-Wish, right? In those early days when Dad brought Make-A-Wish up here because there was heaps of kids that were wishing to go to the Barrier Reef, and a mate of his was the chairman or whatever down in Melbourne, and said, Bob, you need to get some people together up here and start this, so these kids have actually we've got a contact on the ground. But how was that? Knowing Dad, he just went, hey, Joe, how about you give me a hand? Because that's the sort of, as you would have done with many other people in charities. But what's that journey been like? And then what other charitable and community stuff?
Sure. Well, Dad had called to say, hey, Joe, do you want to give us a hand with Make-A-Wish? And I didn't know what it was about. He says, well, look, we've got a ball happening. I'll get one of my volunteers to assist you. And it was Lucy Hutchinson, who's since passed away, one of the most beautiful humans on earth. And Lucy and Al and your dad and the group ran the mock debutantes ball. And so I was a big person, and I wasn't going to wear white. I had to be someone different, so I went as Con the Fruiterer's daughter, Marinka, the big green flowing dress, and quite voluptuous, and one Miss Congeniality. Saw the video of Christopher, who the Make-A-Wish was created back in the day, and I lost my shit there at the table watching the video on the big screen, and I was hooked. And from there, I stayed 33 years. I chaired it for 14 years, and it's been a magnificent organisation and remains to be. And from there, during my year of Rotary, during my year of presidency of Rotary in 99-2000, we started the Hear and Say Foundation in Cairns. And Marianne, my wife, volunteered. We donated furniture. We got presents for them because kids, when they had a cochlear implant, had to go to Brisbane, which meant they were away from their families for up to 2-3 months. And it was just too hard on the family. So we thought if we have a studio and a clinic here, that they could, once they have an implant, they could not be away from their family. So we did that. And so I was on their charity board in Cairns. Also did I still chair the Catholic Catenians Association, which is a group of Catholic guys. There's about 45 of us. We meet once a month. I'm the honorary consul for Malta as well, have been for 18 years now. And as I say, Steadfast Foundation, and just the odd charity here and there.
So it's not like you got nothing to do in retirement. It was just the things you had to figure out how to restructure your day,
correct.
Right?
I do have to say that after I did retire, there was a few things that take place which I won't go into, but I ended up just retiring from all charities other than the Maltese Consul and the Catholic Catenians. I just felt that I just needed to give Joe some time and Marianne, and to be husband to my wife, because effectively you know when you're so busy, all people who are busy and giving things to others selflessly, sadly their families become the victims.
I'm glad you touched base on, was it Marinka, the daughter, but the word I've got, it's not the only time you've got a bit of a history of this cross-dressing, is that, well, there's more than one occasion? That's just what I've heard, mate, on the street.
I was known to be at the playpen in Sillars. No, kidding. But no, I've done a few.
At balls and charity events and what have you.
And look, generally, what bloke doesn't like to get into a dress every now and then? So, and I did it a few times. I started Wax for Wishes nationally, where my brain said, hey, if we can wax legs and be paid for it, of which 4 guys ended up collecting $23,000 for Make-A-Wish by waxing legs.
Wow.
And there's some funny ones, I can assure you. And then we did waxing chests and backs, no other parts of the anatomy. And we did really well out of it. And then Make-A-Wish adapted it as well for around Australia.
Wow.
So
just random ideas.
It's quite good. It's been a good little journey.
But it's amazing. I mean, I would say every business owner we've spoken to, certainly on this podcast, and probably most other business owners, the decent people, just their ability and their want to give back in some way to something other than their business, you know, and, you know, the community, whether it's charities, whether it's by actually physically being there, whether it's by donations or setting foundations. It is amazing how certainly the successful people of Cairns or Far North Queensland, they're the ones we've spoken to, the willingness to give back is it's amazing. Yeah,
agreed. Life is a bank account, and you've got to put into it as well.
Yeah.
So I just believe that I need to serve people, and I think I've achieved that box.
I think you can go back to that teacher back in grade 10 and
I've often thought,
look, I did make something of myself.
I'd often thought, gee, I'd love to be in my Ferrari or my Porsche at a traffic light and see that teacher.
But you do a bit, actually, talking about the cars, do you do a bit of the racing or have done some of that road?
We did the Targa. Did the Targa twice with my son-in-law. I'm sort of, Targa's not sort of happening for a while. No. I don't know what's going to go on there, but every now and then I'll sort of get up and give the cars a bit of a squirt.
Just the one here, or did you do one in Tassie or somewhere else?
I would like to have done Tassie. It becomes an expensive exercise and a hobby, and plus your cars are uninsured. So, for a ride off the Ferrari or one of the Porsches, it becomes a bit of an OF moment.
Not even you can find someone to insure them. The others.
I did the first year, and they wanted $23,500 for the 2-day event, which I said, steady.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of more diplomatic ways of putting it. But I just thought it was a bit rich, even for insurance brokers.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Joe. And mate, thank you for going deep into your story. And as I said, we didn't know where we were going to go with it. And mate, I'm telling you, you're looking really good for someone that's 62, 63. You're looking a lot better.
65 shortly.
65 shortly. There you go. You're only looking 62, mate. That's what I was trying to get at.
Mate, you're hard up, not fed up, I hope.
Mate. But it's been great. Really appreciate you coming, mate, and accepting the invitation to do this. It's been great.
Yeah, continue the good work.
Yeah, I echo Paul's comments, mate. It's been a really great chat. There's been some real pearls of wisdom in there. Just simple messages like giving back, be genuine, be who you are, and good things come to good people.
Correct.
And I love the one that old Mr. Malik said,
hang around shit sticks.
Shit sticks.
So, and we're with that. So we hope you enjoyed the chat. If you did, jump on the Wealth Radar Facebook page and share your messages and comments. And we look forward to speaking to you next time. And Joe, thanks heaps, mate. That was a great chat.
Thanks, Les. Love you guys. Take care. Cheers.
Thanks, mate.
This podcast is for informational purposes only, and the information contained is of a general nature and may not be relevant to your particular circumstances. The circumstances of each investor are different, and you should seek advice from a professional financial advisor who can consider if particular strategies and products are right for you. In all instances where information is based on historical performance, it is important to understand this is not a reliable indicator of future performance. You should not rely on any material on this podcast to make investment decisions and should seek professional advice.